Hey, it's Steve Parker. Welcome to another edition of Radio Friends again for February 23rd, 2024. And we got a nice group of guys already gathered. We've just been got together a few minutes ago. And we don't know, some people may jump in as we go along. We'll try to point them out. So what we'll do is I'll introduce each guy, and if you could kind of say a couple of words and maybe where you're coming to us from today, that'd be kind of cool. So let's start with Bob Craig.
Yeah, I'm still here in Philly, still coming to you from Philly. I haven't moved in the past week. Stayed right here exactly where I was a week ago. It's 40 degrees and we have cloudy skies on the verge of clearing.
Oh, thanks a lot, Bob. Pete Salant is with us.
And greetings from dismal, rainy, chilly Virginia Beach, but I'd rather be here than in Connecticut.
And John Landry. John is back.
Yes, I'm in Middletown, Connecticut, and it's also 40 degrees. I call it balmy for this area.
And we've got Dick Caltis here. He just jumped on with us. I think he's in here.
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
Gotcha.
Alrighty, I'm here in 79-degree and sunny Westport. The geodesic dome was cleaned last night, so everything looks clear.
Gotta love Westport. Oh, let's see. Ron Pell. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning, everyone. It is in the 40s here and raining, starting to clear up in Meriden. And by the way, my last show in Meriden is I won't be here next week because I'll be moving. And then 2 weeks from today, I will be coming to you from Cheshire, Connecticut.
Mazel tov.
Very nice.
All right, Lee Gordon's here.
Hey, welcome to everybody from pretty sunny South Florida, Boynton Beach, Florida, where it's 69 degrees and supposed to go up to, I think, 78 today.
I hate to tell you, Lee, but you're not there. Looks like you're stuck back down in the swamp at POP.
Hey, just gotta project back to Connecticut.
All right, let's see. We've got Bob Serkins here.
Yes, good morning. Good to be back. 41 degrees and rising here in Old Lyme, Connecticut, but the taxes are rising even more.
Yeah.
The whole other show. Hey, Dude Walker's back. Hi, Dude.
Hey guys, nice to see you. Talking to you from my my studio in Lutherville, Maryland, and I thought I'd jump in today. Seems like every Friday morning at 9:45, I'm best intentions to come and join you, and then something comes up. Usually, it's got a dollar sign attached, so you understand. But I did see you might touch on voiceovers today, so I'll let you know what I've experienced. Maybe not what I know, but what I've gone through. So nice to be with you.
Thanks, dude. Clark Schmidt is here. Hi, Clark.
Hi, it's 34, rain and snow in Nashua, New Hampshire. Happy birthday to Dave. Today is also Dick Summers' birthday, and Sal and Jemmy had a birthday a couple of days ago.
Happy birthday, guys.
An Aquarian.
Right, we've got Tracy Carmen's here.
Live and in person, back in Longmeadow, Massachusetts, where it's cold. Rather be down doing Chinese buffet with Lee and everybody down in Florida, but not for another few weeks. And back in the saddle.
And Jim Harrington jumped out, and that's great because Jim's done a lot of different voice things, so he probably has some stuff to say for our voiceover issues. Hi, Jim.
Hi, guys. I'm checking in from Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, which is suburban Pittsburgh. And Alexa, what's the forecast? 44 degrees and partly sunny skies. Everyone was doing a weather forecast, so, I figured I'd get it from the pro. Alexa.
And I'm in Berlin, Connecticut, in the Berlin, looking out just over the beautiful skyline. Everything comes together. It's all gray and gray and gray and some dirty white snow. And we're looking forward to getting into the spring. But, one of the things we had talked about, and actually started from Joe Connolly.
Oh, you forgot Grumpy down there.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, Dave. Grumpy. How are you, Dave?
Oh, I've got a little cold, but I want you to all know that the temperatures in Mexico are nice and warm, and that's where I just came from. So I'm back in cold Puerto Port St. Lucie, Florida, of about 66 degrees. So, and it's supposed to get up into the 70s
Yeah,
today.
Steve, did you get Bob Marks?
Wait a minute. Yep. Up there he is. Bob, did I say? I didn't say good morning to you, Bob. I'm sorry. I slid you right in there.
Good morning, Steve. I'm still here in Vero Beach, but I'm heading down south to Lee Gordon's area. I'm going down to Aventura, actually. Have to take Kaz down for another scan. You know, that's our life. By the way, when it comes to weather, lately here it's been really chilly, and it reminds me why I left Vero Beach. I mean, why I left Connecticut for Vero Beach 37 years ago.
Wow.
I can't stand the cold. I just can't bear it. I'm sorry.
How long do you have to live in a state to be permanent? I mean, 37 years. You make it sound like they still treat you like you're a tourist. You know.
So sometimes I still feel like a tourist out here.
How's Kaz doing in general, Bob?
I wish I had good news for you. We'll just leave it there.
Okay. So sorry. Our prayers are with you, Bob.
For sure.
Thank you.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was interesting. Somebody had just reposted, I guess, on Remembering Hartford Radio, and we had Gordon Weingarth up there, and I see Dick Kalt here, and I thought it might be fun before we get into anything else. You know, they put up a great photo of Gordon, but also just a great group of guys at PLR, and keeping in mind that really the whole guy that germinated this place was Dick Kalt, and it was so funny because I said, I think Dick Kalt might know the names of the guys in this particular photo, but I thought it might be interesting to start off with Dick and just ask Dick, what was it like when you first took that whole thing into Album Rock and really, you know, getting that whole thing started at PLR?
Well, it was a great experience. You know, when we launched the station, WPLR stood for Popular 99. And basically we were a pop station because we'd come out of FM elevator music for the most part because Triangle wasn't really looking at the FM as a major asset at the time. And so when Bob Herpy put together the group to buy the radio station, we transitioned into a more disciplined popular format, and we had Bob Neri on the air and Jay Brooks, Eugene Ian Karen, who ultimately went to WELI after us and has since passed away. And, you know, we were playing pretty formulaic pop, but I had talked to Bob and I said I'd done a lot of listening and I felt that the opening was to push the station to the left and to get into a progressive rock situation because of where society was going. And our first program director was Jay Crawford, who came over from WAVZ. And he was very willing to get involved. He's in that picture. And Bruce Mankey came over, and he had, I think he had been working in Meriden at the time. And Gordon Weingarth was on the air doing middays. He wasn't the program director yet. And Eddie Wazoo, Eddie Michelson, you'll see in the middle of the picture there with the beard. And you've got Stoneman over to the far right. I don't have the picture in front of me, and I don't know if I've covered everybody or not.
I think Litch was in the picture.
Who was?
Litch?
No, Litch wasn't in the picture.
Oh, not this was different picture.
This was before Litch. This shot was probably about 1970. I'd say 72. Late 1972 is probably when it was taken. So you had, you had Bruce Mankey, and you had Gordon Weingarth, and you had Bob Dark, and Jay Crawford, and Eddie Wazoo, and Stoneman. I think that's pretty much who it was in the picture.
Dick, did Gordon just leave Yale? Was that when he just graduated from Yale? Was that his first job? I mean, where did he come from?
He actually came to us through YBC, I believe.
Yeah.
And started in late 71, early 72. And then he ultimately became program director after our very close dear friend Barry Grant left. Although he did serve for a while as PD in between. But Ronnie Berger came to us from
HCN.
HCN. And he was the gentleman that I asked to kind of shift the station a little bit more to the right. Now, this was before we ever thought about buying WCDQ. And so Rami was the one that basically took the music over from Jay, and we made more of a left turn. But I'll tell you the one thing, and then I have to leave for a meeting. But the thing that made the 70s at PLR such an unbelievably wonderful time was because Bob and I had a trust level that was, I think, unique between ownership and management in radio stations. We were in an office building where on the first floor there were 5 accountants, and they were the owners of the building, and the purchase price for the station was 125 grand. And Bob said to me, I have a vision for it, but you know better what the market feels like. Let's work together as a team and really put something together that's different. And there was a trust factor that I had with him that was unique to anything I had ever experienced at any other radio station before then. And we took chances. What we did is we would do things, I would say to the air people, we are going to have a sales meeting every week, and you're going to sit in that sales meeting, and you guys, the salespeople and the air people, are going to get to know each other and also get to understand the importance between what a sponsor needs to hear from you on the air, and at the same time, how our commercial load has to be managed so that you can put out the best show you can the way you like it. And I think it made a tremendous difference. And the other thing I said to them, and I don't know that this is super unique, but I said, I don't want anybody talking at anybody. You are not on the air to talk to people. You are on the air to talk with people. And even though you're not going to hear responses back on the air from listeners, you have to have a tone and an outreach with that tone that makes people feel like they're in a conversation, not that they're being told something. And I found that made a big difference. And I found that the air people really, really jumped into that. They liked the whole concept. And then the final thing, and I'll shut up, is I didn't care what they played. I didn't care how broad the music list was. I didn't care if they took the Ohio Players and backed it up against Ozzy Osbourne. I didn't give a damn how broad and how strange the music mix was, as long as there was a logic to the segue. In other words, if for example, if the Ohio Players were singing about sugar, and then they wanted to segue into the Archies singing sugar, sugar, and then segue into something else that dealt with sugar that had no logic to it, it didn't matter. And we used to get mail from our listeners that would show the time on the letter that they heard the segue and tell us the segue and tell us how it blew their mind when they heard it. It was great stuff. Anyway, I could go on forever, but I mean, I feel that was an element that made us a little bit different.
Well, plus when you did those segues, you didn't have to keep interrupting the segue between a beautiful segue to say what your call letters were. I mean, so many stations, when they try to do a segue, they stop, to tell you, 60 minutes of nonstop hits or whatever. But there would always be the break instead of a beautiful segue. And plus, I remember, Dick, you guys did have, there was the DRC sound was what my dad was looking for. But you guys had that sound really like you were talking with your audience. Very one-to-one with those guys.
The one person, and may he rest in peace, who sounded the best was Gordon. You could hear him smile when he spoke. You could literally hear him smile, and it just felt different. And then we brought Marcia Simon, and she was the first female morning drive personality that I know of in Connecticut.
Spoke to her yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great, and
she is.
She has a travel agency that caters to high-end folks.
Yeah,
and she's out in Westbrook.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Tease us out.
She does her PR stuff and everything too.
Well, I tell you, it really, when you look at what PLR is these days and everything else, so many people just bastardize these stations and unfortunately held on to the call letters. It's just terrible. I remember you did all this without research, Dick, which was kind of like from your gut. You knew what you were looking for, and you trusted the guys to do it.
That's exactly right. But the thing is, it was not just mine. It was the gut of about 8 or 9 people who were part of the product. And they were also part of the listening audience. They were the age, they were the lifestyle. And the phones were constantly ringing. And then, we had to do something big to get the station off the ground. That's when we did the 5-day muscular dystrophy radiothon in downtown New Haven. First radiothon ever done. I don't consider playing Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini for 9 hours in a row a radiothon, even though it was a good way to raise money because people wanted you to stop playing it. But Jerry came to the green and played for 5 straight days with his full band and Helen O'Connell. Now, mind you, we didn't play Helen O'Connell on the station, but it didn't matter. It was like people were saying, what the hell is going on? And the answer was WPLR is doing a radiothon. And that's how we got our call letters, into the discussion. And then we presented a check on the telethon. And next year he came back and did it again. And I invited John Lennon to come up and be a host for the for the radiothon, but he couldn't make it. So we interviewed him on the air for about an hour or so, live from his apartment down in the village, and the phones just melted.
I tell you, Dick, I got to hear that, and I don't know if there's any way you can get some or all of that interview out to us, because
I can send it to you in a minute. I have the whole thing. He said stuff he never said anywhere else.
I tell you guys, you got to hear it, because it's really, I think he was so supportive of PLR. Because what was the song you were playing that with the N-word in it, right?
I'm trying to remember. Probably.
A woman is. It was a woman.
Yes,
it was called "Woman is the Nigger of the World."
Yes, that was the one. Yes.
And PLR was one of the only places that would play it, and I think he really appreciated that. But yeah, send that out if you could. But
and just to close, there was another thing. We had a close relationship with Frank Zappa, which I did. He was a friend of mine. He became a friend of mine. And the thing is, he would come up when he would tour, and we'd be sitting in the office. He had a particular song that was a favorite that you couldn't play. I don't know if you did. We played it, but it was called Dynamo Hum.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
And to me, that was one of the greatest instrumental pieces of production you ever heard. And the lyrics would have thrown me in jail, but they were great, and we still played it.
Well,
and it was great because it wasn't DYNAMOHUM. It was DINAHMOHUM, as in Dinah Mohammed, baby, because I'm humping you. That's what it was about.
Love
God, I love those times. You have no idea.
Yeah, it's too bad, Dick, that it's too bad that there wasn't a way that you could almost take the old PLR and still find a way to stream it or something else and go back to all that stuff, because nothing sounds like it, and they all knew the music too, Dick. They weren't doing liners. So many people doing liners, they knew the music.
And they didn't do talk ups.
Yeah.
They just let it roll. And then next time when we have more time, I'll tell you when I invented the 80-minute hour.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
And that wasn't just to play music. It was basically, all right, I'll tell you now. It was basically because Stone Man, we moved him from nighttime, but we moved him to 6 to 10. And after about a month of him working 6 to 10, I realized I had no idea what I was getting when he walked in the front door. Whether it would even be at 5:30 or at 6 or at 6:30. I wouldn't know when he was coming, and I didn't know which Stone Man was showing up. And I felt that it was too big of a risk. So we moved our day parting to 3 to 7 and 7 to midnight, which is fairly standard too. And we created an hour that started at 6:50 and lasted till 8:10 p.m. And what that did is it gave me time to figure out, is he straight? Is he not? Is he here? Is he not? Do I get on the phone or what? It didn't matter, because there was no voice from 8:50, 6:50 to 8:10. We played nothing but breaking new albums during that 80-minute segment. And the ratings were ridiculous. The Stoneman got like like 8 and 9 ratings.
Wow.
At night, with TV ratings. I just don't know. He was a phenomenon that I can't explain. But I never knew what Stone Man I was getting on any given day.
Well,
One
Dick,
of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet, but he had his issues.
he did have issues. Well, that was all part of his character. All
Yeah.
right. Thank you so much, Dick. I know you got stuff going on, and I appreciate you jumping in for a few minutes because
Yeah, I got to run to a meeting, but thank you for asking the question. I'm happy to identify those guys. I talk to them all the time. We get together often, 50 years later.
Wow.
And we're still together as a group.
And I tell you, for the guys
like
that
you
haven't
guys.
seen it, the picture is posted on WPLR's early years, and it's also on Remembering Hartford Radio. And if you guys haven't joined those groups yet, I think you would really enjoy them because again, it's just radio stuff like we do here. So.
And Bill Dwyer posted right below my post that was on there. I just posted that it was the time of my life that I loved working with each and every one of them. And they were my great friends. And then Bill Dwyer posted right below and named all the names anyway.
Yeah.
By the way, the reason that the picture was posted was because they wanted to let people know that there's going to be a memorial of a celebration of life for Gordon Weingarth on April 24th in New Haven. And that was why that stuff was being posted.
Yeah, I think it was originally April 14th. I'm involved in putting that together with all those people, actually.
Is it the 14th or did they move it to the
I'm pretty sure it's the 14th, but
okay,
I've got a meeting coming up. I'll clarify that. But yes, and it's open, and he deserves it. And if anybody wants to come, because the end of his life is not the way you want to end your life. He had a very, very rough last couple of years, to say the least. I spent a lot of time with him, and he was going through some very difficult times. Anyway, gentlemen, thank you very much for your indulgence here. I got more stories to tell you down the road, but that's a little bit of New Haven here in Hartford.
Yeah, well, I think we all sit down. We'll all sit down in a circle somewhere, get together, and light up a bone, and kind of go over those early days of PLR.
Listen, you won't. You don't scare me.
Thank you, Dick.
Thank you, Dick.
All right, catch you later, guys. Thanks.
Hey, Dick.
Well, one of the things I did say, and we've got some great guys here that do voiceover on a fairly regular basis. I want to, Joe Connolly, actually, all the years at CBS doing news, he has shot me a note and thought it might be an interesting thing to discuss because here's a guy that, all these years as a newsman and the business reports and everything on 880 on CBS, he said, at this point in his life, he's interested in trying to pursue voiceover work. I went up and found Joe Cipriano's got that school named after Don LaFontaine. He's got a voiceover lab or something out on the West Coast, and he gives regular courses. But I don't know, Lee, you've been doing it forever, Lee. So how did you first get in? And I know you were doing the Channel 3 and all that, but how do you still, or well, I know maybe not doing as much of it now, but how did you go about getting some of the work that you did?
Well, it's from the building behind me. I basically was I was working at POP as a jock, and I think the first voiceover job I actually got paid for was we were running a commercial on POP for a sandwich shop in New Britain called Full of Baloney. And Paul Bailey was the account executive, and I think they wanted to run the spot on DRC or in some other station, and so he got me some money for that, and I said, oh, this is a pretty good deal. Extra money just for this commercial running elsewhere, and I think that's what got me started. But part of it was, as later, a couple of years later, when I was the production director at POP, I got to know some of the other people in the business, like Lenny Silberg, who owned Producers too, and in fact, it's a kind of a chicken egg situation. I got the Channel 3 gig because of the voiceover, not the other way around, but because Lenny needed somebody in a hurry, and Al Pellegrino was very generous with me in allowing me the flexibility. If I needed to take 2 hours for lunch to go do a voiceover job, I could do it. And so Lenny needed somebody in a hurry to do a Channel 3 spot over at Producers 2, which was on the Silas Dean Highway at the time. So I zipped over, did it, got introduced to Lois Coteen, who was the promotion person at Channel 3 at the time. And she said, "Hey, you want to keep doing stuff?" And that introduced me to Jim Nikodemski, who was the production guy there, and Walter McIntyre, who was the production guy there. And so it basically, unlike now, when you never have to leave your house, back then you had to go somewhere, and every time you went somewhere, you met somebody. And I mean, part of
Networking.
the people that I started meeting to get connections was from going to Brock's after my shift every day, and so there were. For those who don't know, and I can't imagine there's anybody in this group who doesn't, Brock's was a bar in West Hartford.
Yep.
And so I got to meet some people who who were in the advertising business, who had ad agencies, who needed to do voiceover, had voiceover guys, and that's how I got into it. And then you just expand your network of connections.
Well, networking.
Yeah,
That's what networking.
it was real networking back then. It wasn't virtual like but you could you'd go to the studio.
Everybody remembers John Fleming, the late John Fleming, who was fantastic. And he would always tell me, he said, "You know what? I'd go to New York, and I would always be nice. I'd be nice to the production guys. I'd be nice to the people. And what a difference that makes. I didn't have an arrogant attitude. I was just happy to have the work. I appreciated getting the calls." And he said, and that mushroomed into so many other things. But Lee, how did you hook up with the Cahoots? How'd that happen?
I was this is weird, but I was the production director at POP, and they were advertisers on the station, and what they'd have their spots, and then originally, I think they had other people reading the spots as opposed to them doing them themselves. But then they would have the stations tag the spots with the addresses of the locations, because they had different locations. They were different. Right. I was the only one who could pronounce their name. and they said, and rather, every station, it was a crapshoot whether the person reading the tag could pronounce Cahood correctly, and I could. And so they started to have me, because they were coming to this POP to produce the spots with Abe and Maurice and eventually Charlie. And so because I could pronounce their name, they just decided to incorporate me into the spot and send them self-contained. Yeah. And that is legitimately how I got that gig. And I think I'm not in Connecticut anymore, but I think the spots are still running.
Oh no, Lee! You still show up. I think Ron. It's funny you say that, because I was watching that interview with Hal Blaine from the Wrecking Crew, and he was talking about how he got all the work that he got, and he said it was all about. He would say, "Smile, you stay a while. Pout, and you're out." He always said,
Be easy to work with. That's the way you get business.
Exactly. That's what Fleming used to say.
Whatever they want, if they want to beat the shit out of you, let them do it. But take direction. And I remember one time with Lee being in one of the studios, and I don't know, somebody came in from the FM or something. I don't know what it was. It was a woman, and she read the spot, and there was no critiquing her. No, I mean, she just was on such a high because of who she was. And I was in there because I used to love to do that with my dad. I really pissed people off as a salesperson being in on a production session. But at one point, she goes, "What'd you think?" I said, "It was good." I said, "If you ever want to see if it can be great, get a hold of me." So, I couldn't do it, but if you can take direction, I always thought that was the easiest. Now, dude, you chimed right in, and you're probably fairly active with it now, right?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely active with it now, and it's wise choice for me is that I've chosen a career that doesn't make me retire. I just age into the next thing that they want. So now I'm getting into doing the older man voice, which is fine with me. I'll do this until I can't do anything anymore, and it's worked out fine. Thinking about what Lee was talking about, how you get into something, it's not something I planned very much. It just kind of happened. I was doing radio. The last live radio stuff I was doing was as mornings at Q107 in Washington, D.C., the ABC O&O. And I got out of that job and was at sea for a moment. Met Steve Kingston, who you probably remember from Z100, famous success story in New York. And he was at B104 in Baltimore. And he needed somebody to do some sweeper liners and stuff. And he said, sit down, do these for me, blah, blah, blah. And then he coached me a little bit. And I'm looking for my next radio gig. And he kept going, hey, you might want to just keep doing this. And I didn't think I could make enough money doing it. And he says, how about if I send stuff to my friend in Chicago, Buddy Scott? By the way, Buddy Scott just passed. And so he sent it to Buddy Scott. And Buddy Scott used me in Chicago. And then he sent it to whoever was in Los Angeles at the time, and it just mushroomed. And I thought, this could be it. So that started the radio side of it. Then that kind of mushroomed over into doing some TV work. I was I was a booth guy at TTG in DC, the Fox station there. And one thing, and then that leads to commercials, which leads to documentaries, and it's not something I planned. I'm not that smart. It just kind of happened that way. So relationships help, but also having your foot, and it's also somebody else who trusts you, and say, what about Dude Walker? What do you think? Oh, he's good. So then, in other words, it's not just me making that decision. It's this friend of mine who said, he's not all on your own. So it helps to have a couple of people backing you up as opposed to just one guy throwing you in the game.
Yeah, I mean, even the stuff that I did. I mean, for the longest time, Ted Daliku was the voice of Channel 8, and he was, his schedule was getting all over the place. And at one point, I filled in for him, and the only reason that it happened was somebody said, I was the rep for them at POP 104, and Paula Roll, who worked down there, did creative. She knew me and knew that I could fill in. And the funniest thing was, it was a blizzard, and I drove down there in my Jeep in a blizzard back in the mid '90s, and I had this great mental picture that I'd be doing a lot of voice work. They handed me a piece of paper, and it said, "When snow covers Connecticut, no one covers the snow like Action News 8." And then he took the paper back and said, "Thank you very much," and I drove back in the blizzard. But again, it was somebody who said he can do this. He can. My boss said to me one time, he says, "Steve, the most important part of your job, show up."
Right.
Another piece of equipment we can doesn't mean I'm the greatest. It just means you're reliable, and and like you used to say to me too, Ron. That's how I was able to survive with Ron. With Ron always blazing the trail for me, while I was able to stay at CRN because I was able to just plug me in somewhere.
You were the most valuable player at CRN as far as I was concerned, Steve. For the 13 years we were together there, you did anything anybody ever asked you to do. You did a good job with the network, which is an impossible thing to do because of all the reluctance of the stations. And when we needed somebody to go out on the road and do something, you were the first guy to raise your hand and step up. You were the best guy that ever happened at CRN.
Well, thank you. And even at TNH, it was the same thing. Somebody said to me at one point, and you guys know that do the voice work. Somebody said, "Oh, I could do that." News Channel 8 brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. I said, "Yeah, but can you give them the other 200 voices that they're looking for? Fast or slow or high or low and I mean, even with Lee, I remember back when my dad would direct you and beat the shit out of you. But I mean, you'd always come out with the product.
But when he lost his voice, he turned several of his long-standing accounts over to me. I was quite grateful. I was somewhat surprised and very grateful that he trusted me with some of the things that had been his.
See, and
And I remember,
there's another thing that makes you guys successful, and that's attitude. I mean, I'm looking at the little squares here with Lee and Dude, and the two of you are looking straight in my eyes. You're looking right in the lens, and you're listening, and that makes a big difference. You know, back in the day when you had to go to a studio and you're being directed, they could see that you were listening and you came out with the product, and I think that's a big difference.
Yeah. Sure. Well, thanks, Pete. I appreciate that. Lee, I was just thinking about us radio people. It was a very natural transition for TV people to use radio people. They go, okay, we've got the good-looking people on camera. We'll get the good voices on a mic. We're done. But that's not the way it happens now. It's like, I don't want a radio voice on my TV spot. And that's the hardest thing to get rid of was, you know, this is what you crafted since you were, you know, since you went through puberty, sounding like a radio person. And then you get to do a commercial and they go, can you turn that off? We just want you to sound like a real person. Like, what?
Yeah, we don't want to need announcers or actors.
voice.
We want real people.
Yep.
I know. Well, so that's an unfortunate side thing happening now is that they want real people. So to try to be a real person yet professional, it's kind of a game.
Yeah.
I was able to get work. I was able to get work because I didn't have the big DRC voice, so I would do character voices and do everything else. I didn't have those. I didn't have those pipes, and it was when they were looking for a more real sound. But Bill St. James, unfortunately, he's not here today. But I remember it was Robinson's 60th birthday party. Hard to believe. Dick is either turning 85 or he is 85, and in fact, I'm interviewing him today about when he met the Beatles back in the first day when they came down to. When they basically came to this country for the first time. But when I said to Bill goes, "Oh, Steve, I'd love to help you." So I went down to TapeWorks and I put together, you know, a demo for him and I sent it off. And he said to me after he listened to it, he says, "It's not bad," but he says, "Don't forget the everyman." And the thing that cracked me up was that's all I'd ever been doing was the everyman. And, you know, that was, and I found it, my dad would tell guys that, to turn their pots down, to turn their headphones down, because a lot of guys would get so caught up in their own voice, they became more of a radio guy. So
I don't wear headphones unless I have to.
Yep, and that's what I started.
There's somebody
doing.
on the other end directing, but if I'm just doing a voice and I'm directing myself, I don't wear headphones.
If I need to be the regular guy, I'll do that. Just take them off all the time. You know, that's
and just use one also. One. I'm just using one earplug so I can hear myself speak.
You know, you were mentioning before about radio voices of people doing spots like that. I think one of the first voices, a non-radio voice, non-powerful voice that I recall hearing on a national basis was Mason Adams. Remember Mason Adams?
Yeah. Sure.
He did Smuckers.
I was gonna say Smuckers Jam.
Yeah.
A name like Smuckers.
It's got to be good.
Well, how about oh, I've gotten really terrible with names, but he did some Disney things.
Well, there's John Bartholomew Tucker that was doing stuff way back.
ABT,
He was from up in your area, I believe. He was in Springfield.
Was he? Oh, okay.
I think, or audition. I actually have an audition tape of him that Dick Robinson gave me one time.
He used to do Big E spots.
Yeah, well, yeah.
In fact, I replaced him on the Big E spots, and then I got replaced by a guy who subsequently became a friend of mine named Bruce Miles, who's up in the Pacific Northwest.
Who did all those spots for, like, you know, a Frank Marotta presentation, all that stuff for the
well, some of them Dave would know, but I know that Kenny Griffin did some back in the early days, but then Dave, you said that Lon Landis did some too, right, Dave?
Yeah, Dick McDonough, well, you had Scotty used to do them. He did them and then got McDonough to do a couple, and then
Lance Drake did some.
Yeah, Lance, that's who I'm talking about. Yeah, Lance Drake. He did them, and then McDonough did them, and I don't know how Lon got involved in there. Because usually guys from news didn't do radio ads unless they were asked. But anyways, Lon came in, and Lon was great to work with, very creative, because Marotta would just give you an envelope or a piece of paper. I remember one time he wrote it on a napkin and gave it to Lon, and he was doing the spots. And of course, we would do a take, then do self-sync, then the other track so we could overlap and do all that. And then I just put in the music and the other crazy sounds after. And but yeah, Lon Landis, he was tremendous. He did a good job.
I remember this is a revelation for me. Lance and I were working. I did a couple of Marotta spots, but Lance was doing one, and he wrote he came up with the copy and the concept, and it was just bang, 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 bang. And at the end of the spot, I forget whether it was for the racetrack or the nightclub or whatever it was, but he just goes directions and then gives the address. And I'm thinking, instead of all, to get conveniently located from anywhere, no, directions, and then blam, the directions. And it was, it was such a great, efficient use of your 30 seconds to just say one word to convey the entire concept that half the people who don't know what the hell they're doing would take a whole sentence to convey.
Yeah, Ron Landis did one that was great. I have a copy of it. And right at the end of the whole spot, he just goes and he gets real close to the microphone. We brought the reverb up a little bit, and he goes, "Of course, a Frank Marotta presentation." So he's going like guns bat out of hell, and then stops and goes, "Of course, a Frank Marotta presentation." And
now, we think of these spots, and these spots are what, 40 years old now?
Easily.
They're more than that. 50.
As I was in high school. I mean, you're talking 45 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah. These were the Sunday spots.
Sunday,
Yeah.
Everything must go.
Al Roker still uses that in the news. Sunday.
Well, look, because it's so ingrained
and powerful.
Although, I don't know that people significantly younger than us have any frame of reference for it. It's like that. It's like the sound of when you drag the needle across a record.
Yeah.
They've never listened to a record. They don't. Well, they do now.
Nobody knows what Connecticut Dragway is. I mean, that's it's been gone.
Now they all think it's RuPaul, which is a whole other thing, But hey,
you're right about the sounds that you remember. We always have things called earworms because they just get in there and you can't get them out. But you don't have video worms. You don't think of things that you see on TV. You know them, but they don't just sit there for hour after hour like an earworm does.
Hey man,
audio is so much more important.
I can sit back and go, sounds great. It's got a month that is so hot. I mean, stereo prices. And that's what's so great about jingles, is just burning into your brain. Sometimes you want to get away from them, but we just had something happen recently, and this is how stations will bastardize jingles. Tommy Russo, God rest his soul, he did a Northeast Expo tremendous jingle, open and close, the whole thing, full, and it was for the Flower and Garden Show. So. I mean, and Christy Gonzalez, her dad, George Gonzalez, started all this thing. Christy says, "Can you take out some of the copy so I can hear more of my jingle?" And he said, "I can count on one hand how many times that somebody's ever said that." But here I am, they're doing it this year. And I mean, Lee used to do a tremendous spot with them. And there's a woman in there who's doing Motor Mouth, and they step on the vocal in the beginning. They step on the vocal at the end, and they rush the whole thing. I called her up in the middle of all the pressure she's going through this week, and I said, "Tell me something. Who was in charge of your production?" And I think she mentioned her media buyer. I said, "Yeah, well, it sucks." I said, "I'm sorry." I said, "I know you got a lot of stuff going on this week, but I know how much you love your jingle, and I will tell you that it's awful, the fact that they rushed it and they stepped on the vocal in the open and the close." And I said, "I will help you with it. I will help you with it for no charge. Just don't." And of course, this year we can't do anything, but he said, just don't do this again. And it's like whoever approved it, whether it was a production person or a buyer or something, should be ashamed of themselves. I mean, a jingle's there for a reason. And how many times Lee was always good about perfection, but how many times do you hear close enough production? You know?
Oh, and the scripts, especially when George used to write them, they were always incredibly well. The 60s were always too short, and the 30s were always too long. Because you get two scripts, and they would be like two lines of difference between the 30 and the 60 and the
Bob Kurzman.
Kurzman was actually got pretty good about the timing. That was the only thing he was really good about. But the timing, he got the timing pretty well. Okay, by eventually. But when George was writing these scripts, I would have to first go through the script and cut out as much as I could.
Yeah.
Then I would have to record it and speed it up and cut out all the breaths and speed it up in order to get it to get the 60 back when
one
they
of the
did
things
60.
Lee, one of the things that I've learned over the years, people will write scripts and they have a Jimmy Carter voice they want to do in the spot, excuse me, in the spot, and the spot's always over.
Yeah.
And excuse me, and I tell them Jimmy Carter doesn't, talk fast. He talks slow. You have to write the script according to his style of voice. But they're writing a radio script for a radio announcer using a Jimmy Carter imitation. And that used to drive me nuts. The other thing that's driving me nuts lately is talking over vocals. I heard
what I was just saying. That's what I said.
Yeah, I mean, all the way through the whole spot.
Oh, yeah.
Heard the vocals all the way through. I said, what the hell? And it drives me nuts.
Somebody approves it, and there's a client there somewhere. But I think the guy that I really, the guy that I really wanted to check in was, Bob Marks, who had to adjust his whole way of doing things but not too much. But when you went to Christian FM, did you find that with the work you were doing with them, Bob, and you still do, a lot of that stuff run at different stations or I mean, you're pretty good at, I gather from directing yourself, but how's it been for you doing a lot of this voiceover stuff?
Well, I didn't do a lot of voiceovers when I was in Hartford at Big D, although I did a few. It wasn't until I got to Florida that, I started working at Christian FM and made contacts, et cetera. And pretty soon my voice became pretty well known in the Indian River County, Treasure Coast area. And I was asked to do some things, for out of the market. And I've been a national voice for a couple of different clients. But, if I had stayed in Connecticut and pursued it, I probably could have done a lot more voice work. Lee mentioned Len Silberg. And I think I told you guys a story once before about Hartford National Bank called on me to do one of their spots because the regular voiceover artist wasn't available. And I went into the studio there, producers too. And as hard as I tried, and they tried to direct me to sound just like the Hartford National Bank spots that were running, I just couldn't do it. I got nervous and I blew it. But I guess what Dude was talking about, having that radio voice. I think that spoils a lot of clients. They don't want a radio voice.
Not anymore.
They want you to sound like a regular guy, and I guess that's what voice acting is all about. So I've narrated books.
No, you narrated the 100th anniversary that we did.
Yeah, but I've done a lot of projects like that through my work at Christian FM. But some of the spots we did at Christian FM, we couldn't say things like prices because we're a not-for-profit. So I had to rewrite the scripts for the secular radio stations.
Yeah, one of the things that I learned is doing my job as production over at WDRC was there are guys. Dick McDonough is a perfect example. Dick McDonough had a superb voice. He could read just about anything. He was not good at characters, doing a characterization. That was not his style. That was just, he didn't have the voice for doing a characterization. Now, Chris Kane, on the other hand, had a great voice. He was lousy on the air as far as the DJ goes, but I mean, he was acceptable. But in the production room, he could talk an English accent, then do a pirate's accent on the next spot. Totally very versatile. One of the best production voices I ever worked with. And but that's the thing that even the salespeople go, well, get McDonough to do this. And I look at it. I said, this is character voice. McDonough is not the guy to do it. So I give it to the next guy that I felt that could do it. It would be either a Chris Kane or one of the other guys there.
Yeah, I think
Hey guys, I got a question for you. We got to talking about jingles just a second ago, and it got me to thinking about remember Empire Carpet? I assume that's nationwide. Empire
Yeah.
Carpet with the
Yep.
jingle and all.
Today.
And
Yeah.
years ago, there was the guy that ran Empire Carpet would do his own spots on camera, and then eventually it was a cartoon of him doing it on camera with the jingle. Then the jingle got shorter and shorter and shorter, and finally that jingle ended up with just him saying today.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yep. Yep.
I mean,
We
it
still
was
have it down here.
going
The
on,
jingle,
and then
the jingle sang
today, and then it
Empire.
was today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
it
think,
finally was just him saying today at the very end of the spot.
Yeah.
Hey
Still
guys, I wanted to ask you, does anyone know whose voice is on this television commercial that I keep hearing or seeing about gift baskets of licorice, different flavors of licorice? The guy has a tremendous voice. Have you heard it? Have you heard it?
I've heard it. I've heard it. I've seen the ads just on the other
I've
day.
seen the ad, but I can't remember him saying licorice.
Yep.
Yeah, he does. He does. You know, but the voice I doesn't recognize. I don't recognize the voice.
And I think Jim Harrington, maybe it's twofold, and because you guys can take it a little bit into this, because Joe Connolly is asking about how to go about this. Jim, you do the podcast every day, and I know you've got some equipment at home, and you've helped me set up some basics here. But maybe you can take us through that a little bit, Jim, and Lee and Dude, pipe in as far as today how you go looking for voiceover work. I mean, do you go into cattle calls online, or how does it get done, and what kind of equipment do you need at home if you want to try to, put your toes into that pool?
You know what happened with I've noticed is that when I first got into voiceover stuff back in the 70s and 80s, like a lot of people say, you had to go to the different agencies or go to the client and sell yourself, maybe give them a demo tape, maybe read a demo piece of copy. And then, like all the guys said, when you made a connection, you nurtured it, and it was a different environment. What I did realize especially when I got to New York, is that to do it right, you really have to dedicate your career to voiceovers to be a real big success. I mean, a lot of guys think, well, I'll do voiceover part-time and I'll do my radio show and stuff. And, in New York, they'll have a call at 2:00 in the afternoon, a call at 4:00 in the afternoon. You got to be able to go, at least in the old days. Now everything's done on the internet, and it's flipped. But even that, I never really liked I liked working alone. I would do numerous takes, versions of a copy to give them a variation. I liked that, but I hated having, a 23-year-old producer in my ear who never worked on the air anywhere saying, "No, I'm just not feeling it." That kind of stuff. I mean, I did something for, I was working at CBS, and over on Fifth Avenue. I knew it was on Fifth Avenue. It wasn't too far from St. Pat's. There was a studio, and I can't remember the name. And I was doing a TV spot, and I remember the producer and the engineer sat in the booth, and the booth was elevated behind me, like over my shoulder.
Huh.
And I can remember the feeling. It was like you were being looked down.
Oh, God.
Being looked at. It was an awkward feeling to be a talent doing the voice work. I like to be able to do it kind of like by myself. And if they say, "Boy, that sucked," okay, let me give you another variation of it. I don't mind that, but I like to. I feel like it's almost a private kind of thing, and it really isn't a private business. I always felt like, okay, I can, if I mess it up and I hear it, I'll know it and I'll fix it. A lot of guys, hey, look at Bill St. James. He's done so well. Bill has mastered it. If anybody should be here talking about it, it should be Billy Hart. Or I used to have a friend of mine who is deceased now, a guy named Dan Foley. He worked in Hartford too. He worked as Dan Phillips on RCQ. And Dan ended up going to ABC and doing a lot of voice work. And he did a lot of, it was a lot of back and forth into New York from Philadelphia. He lived outside of Philadelphia, back and forth into New York. That's why I say you had to be dedicated. I don't know whether it's so much so today because of studios at home and stuff like that. In the old days,
Well,
go ahead. I didn't mean to talk on.
I'm just going to say, Jim, I was listening to what you're talking about, having the voice in your ear. I would say at least 50% of what I do now is directed by someone in my ear. And it's been at least 20 years since I've had anyone in my ear that I can tell is anyone close to my age. They're usually not my gender either. So I've got young women in my ear, something that I would have loved when I was on the air, but and they're telling me what to do. I had to get past that. I realized I cannot let them know that I'm a baby boomer. They can tell by my voice, but if my attitude comes across as I've done this for years and you're just a kid and you're done. They don't want. You can't be an adversary. You have to be their kindly old father friend, and that's worked for me. I mean,
millennials can't take a joke,
but it does work.
Dude, do you Zoom it, or do you have a dedicated Source Connect, or how do you
Source Connect is now the default one to do. I used to have an ISDN line and use Zephyr, and which was fun but expensive.
Do they want to see you?
Source Connect is great.
Do they want to see you when you're doing it? I'm just curious.
Some people do. It's up to them if they want to see me, and I try to look at least this good. I try to,
which is fine.
Shave and shower.
Some of us haven't aged as well.
Yeah, well, they know what they're hiring. They know they're not hiring a young kid, so it's okay. I just try to keep it like on a personal basis, like, hey, hi, where are you this morning? I'm in Los Angeles, or I'm wherever they are. You just try to keep it like it used to be when we were one-on-one with them in the booth. It's personal.
I can remember having like multiple people in the booth from the agency or something, 4 or 5 people sitting there looking at you, and and again, you just have to get past that, and you understand that there's a reason why you're in there. And
Steve, I used to love it when they would go into conference, like meaning you'd be doing something, and then they'd turn to each other and you'd see them talking about it.
While you're doing your thing.
Yeah, you don't know what they're saying because there's no talk about it. The worst is when the account executive was in there. If you got the copywriter and you got the producer and whoever was in the room who had no actual say, but would still say something, they ruin everything.
Everybody seemed to think that they had something to add. Every person added 10 more minutes to the set. If you had 7 people, it was 70 minutes. It was 8 people. It was always 10 more minutes for every person that walked in the room. I once did a radio spot, and they introduced all the creative team to me in the studio. And then so-and-so, he's with graphics. I went, this is a radio spot. What's graphics doing here? But they weighed in with some kind of comment.
And Clark, you hired so many freelancers and so many voices. I mean, do you find that there's some talent that's easier to work with out there, Clark, easier than other ones?
That's a tough question. There's so many great folks out there with home studios that it's just a whole new world of broadcasting. And, I don't have a lot of use for AI, but I do think that having an opportunity with all of these great folks like this to feed into a radio station, you can eliminate the debt service and the cost and deliver great quality. And by the way, speaking of great quality, I got to work with Bob Serkin back in 1969 at Channel 30 in Hartford. And Bob and I recently reconnected, and he did some outstanding features for me on the Goat Wire on WATX. And I really appreciate that. It's, just these wonderful long-term relationships of special people. And one of my favorites is Bill Smith, who does all of the Odyssey production from his home in Sudbury, Massachusetts. He's got a whole recording studio down there, and he just creates magic for all of the Odyssey stations, but he does bands and he does voice work and whatever. It's amazing what people can do from home.
You know, Bill St. James said that Bill said that he was told after he was on the air for a while in New York that he had to stop because I guess his agent said it was cutting into his freelance work and his voice work. So he really had to get away from that. Maybe if I could just ask, let's because I do want to give Joe something to at least put his teeth into. For the guys that are voicing right now and doing work from home, what kind of setups do you have? Where does somebody start to know what the right equipment is to put in? And then maybe, I don't know, maybe marketing themselves a bit. Do they go for cattle calls or, you know, let's try to give, what would you say to Joe Connolly, a guy that's got a huge reputation, a great name in New York City that now wants to go off into that world? What kind of equipment, what kind of, I mean, just how would you guys say it? I mean, anybody chime in. Dude.
Well, first of all, if Joe worked at CBS, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. He needs to get a hold of one of his former colleagues, a guy named Michael Schoen.
Oh yeah.
Because Michael was a CBS news guy for quite a while, and he has retired from CBS, but he's a voiceover guy.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure Joe must know Mike, and he should definitely get a hold of him and ask him. But here's the thing. You can do all the stuff you want to do. The equipment is practically nothing. You need a decent microphone. You gotta. I mean, you can see who the radio guys are. You got Pete and you got Jim with their RE20s. You don't want the production, the 23-year-old woman who's going to be directing. You don't want her to see your RE20. They want to see a condenser mic. They want you to have a $3,000, $3,500 Neumann U87, or they wanted you to have like what a lot of us have a Sennheiser 416, and that's I think they go for about $1,000. I got mine with the special Joe Cipriano discount for I think $850.
Is that the mic that Joe carries around with him, Joe Cipriano? Because I mean, he was telling me he will do a spot in the back seat of his car if he needs to.
Car's a great place to do it because they're made to be soundproof, and they don't have any parallel surfaces. So actually a car is a fabulous place to record if you don't have another.
Unless you're doing 60 miles an hour.
You need to be parked. But
yeah,
Joe probably uses a 416.
Mm-hmm. It's a funny story.
It's a shotgun
funny story,
mic.
Lee. That mic, it's called, you just said it, it's called a shotgun mic, and because it's it's a big long thing.
Yeah.
And I go through airports every once in a while with my portable gear, and every once in a while they stop and pull me over and say, okay, let's go through your bag. I always realize it's going to be 10 more minutes, and as the guy goes, what's this? And I almost said once, that's a shotgun mic, but I thought, no, don't say shotgun.
Don't say
PSA.
Yeah. Hey, you were speaking of Joe Connolly, and just the other day, Joe put up something on LinkedIn. He issued some writing tips for radio, and I sent Joe a note saying that as an ABC correspondent, we were tasked with servicing both radio and television, and a lot of correspondents treated radio as a stepchild. I didn't. Mm-hmm. I greatly enjoyed feeding radio and writing for radio more than I enjoyed writing for television, because when I wrote my radio pieces, I could pull out the meat of the story and condense it, and it helped me write a better television script. So I was telling Joe this, and to this day, I enjoy writing for radio.
Yeah, and Joe is funny because when we had him and Pat together, and Pat said as a news guy he never did commercials, and Joe said, I love commercials. I love to do the commercials. It's like, it's just wearing another hat. So it shouldn't be anything too costly, and I would imagine that all of you guys would be open to having Joe shoot you a note or something, and maybe give some, a little bit of direction. Because I would think that, with a freaking, background that he has and the CBS call letters and the fact that he's done that,
great.
I would think somebody would at least pay attention to him. And here's the guy that could be, documentaries and could be, everything.
But the thing is, and you hear this all the time. People say, "Hey, people tell me I have a great voice." Having a great voice is the last thing you need.
Oh yeah, I know.
And
Above
having
average
good equipment,
ambition.
having good equipment is the second last thing you need. Higher above that is a decent recording space.
Yep.
You need where you record, the environment you're recording in is more important than the equipment you're using. The equipment is practically nothing. I mean, right now I'm using my 416 is over in my booth. I'm using the mic that when I used to take equipment on the road, I'm using my $100 travel mic. Mm-hmm. And that I used to, and I would do work with that between $1,000 mic that I normally use or $100 mic. The mic isn't that important. You need an interface to be able to interface between the mic and your computer. Those you can get them anywhere from $100 to thousands, and you don't. I think the one I'm using it's a Steinberg UR22 Mark II, and it's about $150, something like that, and just a regular computer. Audio is not very computer intensive. You don't need anything more than your laptop to record, and you need some form of software. There's a program called Audacity.
Yep.
And it's free.
Yeah.
And you can download it, and for recording voice, that's all you need. Okay. Or a lot of people use Bandcamp. A lot of people use Twisted Wave. You don't need Pro Tools, not for what we do. And a lot of people use Adobe Audition, which I used to use, but I'm not going to pay whatever for a subscription for that, especially now that I'm pretty much semi-retired. But the most important thing is getting the work. What I like to say is doing the job is just order fulfillment. The real job is finding the work, and that's you can have the greatest pipes in the world and the greatest equipment in the world and the greatest studio in the world, but what you need is Joe's lucky because he has contacts, and he needs to explore among all the people that he knows.
Yeah.
Who among all those people contacts that he's gotten from doing news for all those years, who among them either does the kind of work that he wants to get into or knows somebody who does, and because the hardest part of the job is finding the work.
Yeah. Lee, I want to mention, I've done very limited voiceover work in my career. My latest was the Naiad film. But what has prohibited me from doing much better with voiceover is I don't have a smile in my voice. Mm-hmm. I've never been able to master that. How important do you think that is?
Huge.
It's important, and it's important. But the funny thing is, the way you do it is to literally smile.
Just smile.
When you're talking. You have to. I don't normally. My normal visage, as you can tell, is I'm not one of these people who has a natural smile. So if that's what's called for, and it isn't always. If that's what you actually have to talk like this in order to sound like you're smiling.
Yeah.
Bob, you may want to go to sleep with a hanger in your mouth.
Yeah, I've had people tell me that when I was producing stuff at CRN. Okay, try it a second time with a smile, and it's just like what Lee said. It's the same thing if you answer your phone at home and you smile when you pick up your phone. People hear the smile. So just as goofy as it may seem, even if you record yourself and listen back, you'll hear that. You'll hear that smile.
Yeah. I remember doing a spot with Mike Taylor, and it was kind of an uppity spot, but Mike was very monotone. Mike, when he got into the production room, he was monotone. And I said, Mike, you got to push it more, push it more. I said, I feel crazy. I feel silly. I just, so we recorded a spot, it was a keeper. So I said, this time I want you to do the spot really insane. Just do it insane. Move your hands around, do whatever you got to do. All right. Well, he did it. And he did the first take day and night between the other one. I stopped and played it. And I said, this is what it sounded like. Now, his monotone was so bad that when he went crazy, he sounded normal. and that's what I had to use. And he listened, he goes, yeah, you're right. I didn't, I just always felt silly. It's just, in the production room, you got to be the idiot, and or however you're going to do.
There's a national spot that's running now, where it's a young guy with a lisp. It's a national spot, and I thought, and it wasn't like for a product to fix lisps. You know what I'm saying? It was like this kid had a lisp, and I thought, well, what the hell are they thinking? I mean, it used to be you had to have some quality. It didn't mean you all had to sound like God, but you had to. And the smile is important. But this guy, the only reason why I thought about it is because you had to smile. You could hear the smile. Well, you could hear this kid's lisp, and I thought, geez, somebody thought that's what we want. We want somebody who has a speech impediment representing our product. It's like, holy
Of course,
smokes.
it doesn't help to be the nephew of the sponsor, too.
I was about to say.
That's a good point, Dave.
It's great.
Some of the people doing the casting just don't know what the hell they're doing. And so they put a spot out on one of the online casting services like voices.com or Voice123, which I used to be on both of those, and Dude probably was on at least one of those at some time. And I think they've kind of gone downhill. I don't necessarily recommend them because it's such a cattle call, and they have these tiers of participation. So in order to get any kind of decent work out of them, you have to pay. When I belonged, they cost $200-300 a year to join, and you can still be in there for $200 or $300. But there are the people who pay $880 or the people who pay $2,500. The people who pay the most money get the first crack at the good jobs, and so you have to. And it doesn't make sense for somebody just starting out in the business to pay the extra money to get in the higher tier, and there are waiting lists for the higher tiers anyway. And so it's kind of a crapshoot like that.
By the time you got the notice of a commercial and you did the demo, they already cast it.
Pretty much. Yeah. And because like on Voice123, they only send it out. They limit the number they send out. So you could be sitting there all day waiting and never get something. And on voices.com, if you didn't get in there, like, it had to be a full-time job for you. You couldn't come back at the end of the day, because then you would be number 900 in line. Now I got decent work out of both of those when I was doing it, but and now I don't. Now I only do the work that comes to me. I don't go looking for work at all anymore. I just I got 40 plus years of contacts to call upon. So but that's not for somebody starting out.
Dude, what's your setup, dude? As far as how do you go for the work, and what have you got to work off of studio wise at home?
Well, I'm very fortunate now that I've had the same agent for 20 years, and it's I'm probably the top voiceover agent in the country, because it has offices in LA and New York, Atlas Talent. If it wasn't for Atlas Talent, I would probably have 75% less spots. Very few things come in the door. And I love auditioning for them.
Dude, only because you said that. How did you go about getting Atlas Talent? Did they hear about you, or how did you make that connection?
I started with a different agency in New York. Cunningham Escott was CED, now it's CESD. Anyway, they contacted me because they were getting very aggressive about hiring radio liner people who were doing sweepers and liners and all that. And I had probably a dozen of the biggest ones in the country. So a guy contacted me and I went and did that. Turns out that's pretty much all I did was give them 10% of what I was already making. They weren't in my corner. All they really wanted was the 10%. And I understood it. They have a business, but they weren't giving me auditions it was very early MP3 days. They were just starting to allow you to send things out. So that was there. Joe Cipriano, who has been a great friend, and he said, you know what, if you're not happy, let me get you to talk to the people at Atlas. And they wanted to know what I had. What do you bring into the table? What do you got? And I had a couple of things. I had Sporting News Radio at the time. And it was a regular gig, and they said, we'll take that. And I know what they meant by that. They wanted 10% of that. I said, okay, let's move on from there. Luckily, they're very voiceover connected. They don't have a commercial side. So they're directed to do just voiceovers, and they've been just a great people to work with. And I get to go up against the other top. When I win something, I really won. It wasn't because I was the only guy. I mean, they got the best voices in the country right there fighting against me. So it's been a very creative and exciting place to be. Having said that, I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have that agent now. I probably semi-retire. I don't think I could keep doing it.
Yeah.
Well,
we have less than a minute, Steve.
Okay. I would imagine somebody like Joe, I think one of the things you said about going back to some of the guys that he's known at CBS, like, is it Michael Schoen? Is that the name I got?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, going back to people like that and letting them know, because he's New York. I mean, he's just, I think that, and I'll tell him, Joe, the same thing. He doesn't want to oversell himself. He's Joe Connelly. I mean, that's the thing. But guys, this has been wonderful. And I'm going to just tell Joe if he wants to reach out and check in with him, you guys, or if you guys have any thoughts that do voice stuff, please shoot them to me, even if it's a couple of lines. Tell Joe that he may want to do this, because he's a big fan of what we do here, even though a lot of times he can't make it. But he's a big fan, and he's waved the flag a lot for the Radio Friends again. So
he may want to look into the World Voices Organization, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a voiceover, and there's another one called the NAVA, which is relatively new. But there are resources available from both of those organizations.
Wow, you guys are awesome. Again, what a blast! You guys always are.
Thank you.
You can just always give us so much great feedback. It's wonderful to have all of you in our corner together, and know with Radio Friends again, you're not alone. And also, everybody keep in mind, if you haven't done Radio Friends again, hey, please, listen in. I mean, if you come on in and join us, and if there's a better time for you that's more convenient, throw that out too. Happy to do that. All right, I got to get out of here. So you guys hang on, and I'm just going to kill the recording, and then we can do all smut and gossip. I'm Steve Parker. We'll catch you next week, which will be, I got to do that. It'll be the 20. Oh, yeah, it is leap year. So it's going to be the 29th of February.
Sadie Hawkins Day.
March 1st.
All right, what to wear?
March 1st.
Okay.
March 1st.
Oh, it is March 1st? No, it's but we have a February 29th this year.
We do, but it's next Thursday.
It's Thursday. My daughter's getting married that day. I know.
Okay, sooner or later, I'll get the date of the program and the date when we get out of the program. Thanks a lot, guys.
You had one job.
On Radio Friends again.
Your friend has got a lot to share.